Hey everybody, Tony D with another hot take. Hot take! Yay! And Little Joan's here. Little Joan, who I have to hold, or else she'll bark at things that she sees at the window. Right, Little Joan? Right, Little Joan? Okay. So today I want to talk to you about Trump's press conference today. And I got to tell you, it really made me angry. The reason it made me angry is because the media and the reporters who work in this media have learned absolutely nothing. We're in a pretty big crisis. I don't want to panic anybody. We're going to get through it. But to watch these reporters ask over and over again questions designed to essentially paint people into a corner and get them to admit, oh, saying the Chinese virus is racist, was really just disgusting today. Because, first off, these people are supposedly reporters. And that kind of, I don't know what you even call it now, activism or clickbaitism. I think it's more clickbait than it is activism. I don't think they genuinely care if anyone's offended by the Chinese virus. I think they're just looking for something that will make people outraged on the internet and click on their stupid article. But, there's actual information in these press conferences that Trump is doing with his team. We need to know what legislation has passed, if checks are coming, progress on the disease front to cure it, to vaccinate, progress on testing centers. These are not unimportant topics. Yeah, 6 months ago when it was all about impeachment and stuff, go ahead. Bust his balls all you want. I mean, honestly. But this is like an actual time. And this is a ratings grabber. Everybody wants to know this information. They genuinely want to know all the things I just said. If they're watching that press conference, they genuinely want to know the information coming out of it. Now, is Trump going to grandstand and blow himself up a little bit and, do things like that? Yeah, absolutely. But it's pretty much cut back to the minimum. And at this point, he even has Ilhan Omar praising him. I mean, that's pretty crazy that she would praise him at all. A member of the squad praising President Trump, that in and of itself should show you that even Omar has a limit. She's just like, okay. Now, it may be political limits. She may be saying, oh, it would be bad form to criticize him now. But the fact that she came out and said something nice about him was a positive thing. And, I don't really have a tremendous amount of respect or put a lot of credence in the kind of stuff she says. But, the fact that she said anything at all positive is a good sign that, at least for now, there's some sort of truce in unnamed truce in the works between political rivals. I know you want to get down, Joan. I'm not going to let you go. So the fact that the media cannot get on board with that truce a little bit, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't question things. They should certainly be questioning. There's plenty of things to question Trump on, like, is he going to declare martial law, that kind of thing. Those things are very important too. Those are issues I'm very concerned about. I don't want him to declare martial law. I think eventually he'll be forced to, because idiots won't stay in their damn house. I think he'll put it on the states, and the states will do it. Maybe it'll be a state-by-state basis, so you don't have to do it everywhere. But I think tough times are coming. And meanwhile, you've got these reporters who still, even in the midst of this crisis, are pushing not only did you say, the China virus, that's racist. I mean, don't you think that's racist? A lot of people are offended. A lot of people are saying X and Y and Z. And they're still asking these sort of questions designed to paint people in a corner. Don't bark at things. To paint people in a corner so they could get a good soundbite and post it on their article and say, ha, and get a good headline. Really, it's all about that headline, People don't even read articles anymore, especially if you go to a place like Reddit. They just read the headline and go, I hate that, or I like that. So it was just really disgusting to see these reporters. And I've said before, I've had experience with reporters. I've had friends who have been reporters. I've kind of skirted that world. I haven't officially been a reporter. A couple times I came close, but I'm not a reporter. But I understand how journalism works, or how it used to anyway. And to see these disgusting people, and it really is disgusting because, as a journalist, you have a responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility, right? So to see these guys not just drop the ball. I mean, there's plenty of idiot reporters that just drop the ball. Believe me, I've been interviewed by a ton of them. They have their own agendas, and they could care nothing for people or anyone but themselves. They're narcissists. There's a handful of guys that are good, but man, it is a small number of people. The rest of them are they're savage. They're absolute savages who would say and write and do anything to get a buck and keep their job. Now, some of them are just weak. Their editors are really to blame. I blame a lot of editors for things because they're the ones putting the pressure down. They're the ones who just change articles, don't even tell the writer. I especially think that happens in smaller newspapers and smaller publications. I mean, you have no control over it. You send in your article and then it appears and like something's been changed and you're like, hey, you changed that. What the hell? Oh yeah, some new information came in and we didn't want you to look bad, so we changed it. And who knows how that changed the tone or spin of the article, or was it really true or whatever. So it's bad. I mean, the state of journalism is still horrific. And to watch this press conference, and almost none of the reporters at this point seem to be interested in pursuing a story worth your reading. They just are desperate to get any kind of soundbite out of the press conference that they could say, aha. It got so bad that they were trying to get him to say something like, well, we don't have enough respirators or something like that. Trump had to pass it on to the doctor and Pence and back to Trump. And they still were pressing him on the question. I mean, they were basically just asking the same thing over and over and over again. And it's so frustrating to hear because, first off, they're not going to crack. I mean, none of these people are going to crack underneath the relentless pressure of the so-called media. I mean, these people are in such a weak position, especially today. Their credibility's shot. You have a publication or entity like CNN. I mean, their credibility has just been shot to hell in my view. What kind of pressure can they really put on the president at this point after Jim Acosta basically s-ed the bed months and months ago? None. I mean, they're a non-entity. I mean, Fox maybe could put some pressure on the president, or at least influence the president. There's almost no other news organization that has any kind of influence over him. He ignores them. And with good reason. I mean, at least, and look, Fox is not super accurate. Don't get me wrong. But they are at least still kind of doing journalism. It's incredibly biased journalism, but at least they do some of it. And you kind of know where they stand on things. So they're not going to pursue certain things, right? I mean, yeah, they're going to make Trump sound glowing no matter what. But sometimes they question him. And, certainly Tucker Carlson seems to be doing a fairly okay job. One of the things he told the president to do with regard to, the disease is to tell the truth. Telling the truth is a sign of strength. Lying is a sign of weakness. And I think Trump took that to heart. I think that's something he would take to heart, right? And it's true. If you tell the truth and you just come out and say it, it's over. If you hide it and then you get caught, well, you look weak, and then they start digging at you. And so, on the one hand, the relentless pressure of the media trying to get at Trump probably caused this atmosphere where, yeah, that's a better decision because you're not going to get away with it on these guys, and they'll just tear you to pieces if they catch you in a lie. But on the other hand, it would be nice to see these guys at least, pursue real stories at a time where they finally have a story that will give them ratings that really isn't about Trump. It's about the entire country, the entire world. I mean, it's a pandemic. So this is a ratings grabber, no matter how you look at it. I mean, if it bleeds, it leads. I can't imagine that the people at CNN and MSNBC and all these places still are anxious to push their political agenda when this is happening, because they don't have to. They could take a break from it. And when you have political rivals like Omar, Governor Cuomo, even Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, praising Trump and thanking him for their assistance. I mean, what are these guys going to do, when this is over 6 months from now? Are they going to come back and say, well, yeah, I praised him, but he was really a jerk, or he shortchanged us a couple of ventilators? I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to say, it's very similar to what happened during Hurricane Sandy, right? During Hurricane Sandy, Obama came down to New Jersey, and him and Chris Christie had a big love fest, and it was all wonderful between the two of them, and they were in opposite parties. But, and then later things, well, the deal with Christie. Anyhow, I just think if you're a reporter these days, I mean, geez, you gotta do some actual damn journalism for once. I mean, ask relevant questions. Stop pursuing this relentless agenda of trying to turn Trump into a racist, of trying to say everything's racist. Look at what Italy did. I think it was the mayor of Florence had this ridiculous program to hug a Chinese person to combat racism, about Chinese people because of this disease. The thing is, I haven't heard of any instances of Asian people being assaulted over the disease. I think there was one woman who was shunned on the New York subway, which wasn't nice. I mean, but people are scared. They don't know. It wasn't racist based. It was the exact same thing would have happened if the disease had broken out here. And you go to China and they say, first off, you wouldn't have been able to get to China. China would have closed their borders to the United States like that, because that's what other countries do. The United States doesn't want to do it, or Europe doesn't want to do it because they're so woke. But look at the numbers in Europe. Look at what's happened to Italy. Things are falling apart there because they refuse to close their borders to immigrants who could have the disease. And look, immigrants have it tough, no doubt, especially when you're going into a foreign country to look for work and a new life. But that's the exact reason why they need to be screened in terms of this disease and other diseases. Because when you're in that terrible situation, you don't have time to go to the doctor. You don't have a doctor. You just suffer through whatever you suffer through and hope you survive, and then you move on to the next thing because you're poor and broke, and that's what you do when you're poor and broke. Believe me, I've been poor and broke. I'm not as poor as those guys, but I get it. I understand the mentality of like, well, I can't go to the doctor. I don't even speak the language here. So, but you have to take common sense measures, especially in a disease like this. You have to close the borders. And there's a reason why Trump gets up at every press conference and reminds everybody, oh, we closed the borders to China very quickly. Quickly for the United States. I mean, it wasn't quickly enough. But, had there been better things in place on the southern border and on the northern border, we really don't have that big of a problem. But, and at airports, things might have been even better. So this is going to be a big issue in the upcoming election, and Trump will beat Democrats over the head with this issue. Every gain the Democrats got in terms of immigration and trying to promote this whole kids in cages idea just went straight out the window, because this was part of the reason you need a border, and that actually functions as a border and keeps people out until you could decide whether or not to let them in. So, if you're a no borders person, I disagree with you. Especially now, libertarians eventually want no borders, but that's a long process that would require dismantling a lot of the state apparatus before you could reach the point where, yeah, you don't really have a lot of rules or restrictions in terms of travel. But in terms of the world we live in now, you need a border because you need to check people coming in and out of your country. Not necessarily your own citizens, but definitely in terms of foreign contact. And you need to have things in place so people don't just come here for free stuff. And we would be absolutely inundated if we had one of these Democratic guys who wants to just give free health care to everybody. I mean, people would, where do you want to get your ventilator? Do you want to be on a ventilator in Mexico or Guatemala or, East Africa or the Middle East or any of those places? Or would you rather be on a ventilator in the United States? I don't think there's any question what most people will pick.